Hello everyone, Curious Corduroy here, and it is officially Gamescom week, which means a ton of people are getting first-hand impressions on games like Onimusha Way of the Sword and Resident Evil Requiem. Now when it comes to Resident Evil Requiem, it seems like everyone and their mom has gotten the opportunity to play this game. I know I'm a small channel, but Capcom, what do I gotta do to get my hands on this game, other than wait until February like everybody else? So I'm excited to see these hands-on previews for these games, these breakdowns, to finally see them in action. We've been hearing about them for so long. It's nice to finally get video evidence of what people have been talking about. We're also going to take a look at a special message from Naoki Hamaguchi in regards to the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy being on Xbox, which should be pretty fun. Okay, so we're going to start off first with Onimusha Way of the Sword from IGN. Now, I know that Maximilian Dude has a hands-on impression video as well, which is probably in super high quality, but I don't want to react to his stuff without asking for permission. It just feels weird. So we're going to turn to IGN. Since they're a big corporate conglomerate, it should be fine to react to them, right? But this is exciting. This is high quality Way of the Sword hands-on preview, which should be good. Oh, it's Gone Ryu. This is the boss battle. I've read so much about it already.
I wish it would stop you at least.
It's safe to say we're currently living through a golden age for swordplay games.
Yeah.
Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima lead a pack of accomplished duelers where every strike, lunge and parry feels supremely satisfying. Hoping to find a place among them is Onimusha Way of the Sword, Capcom's long-awaited return to a series slumbering since the PS2 days. And based on a small sample I've been able to play at Gamescom 2025, I'd say its chances are looking very good indeed.
Nice. Yeah, just very quickly, I thought we were never going to get a new Onimusha. I'm like, I love this franchise, but like we've got Devil May Cry, which kind of replaced it. And it's like, well, maybe, you know, it's not on the level of a Devil May Cry or a Resident Evil. It's just done for. And then they brought it back and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible.
No challenge.
Set in a dark fantasy reimagining of Kyoto during the Edo period of Japan, Onimusha Way of the Sword has you take up the sharpened blades of Miyamoto Musashi, a swordsman sporting both the face of the late legendary actor Mihune Toshiro and a talking gauntlet that eats the souls of dead enemies.
The power of the Onimus was within your eyes as well. It must have been awakened by the Dark Master of Sword.
What's that?
That second point is the more pertinent one. Fallen foes drop souls, represented by flames that float around the battlefield before being sucked up by your hungry jewelry.
Yes.
Right, before you get any wrong ideas, Onimusha may have souls, but it is absolutely not a Souls-like. On its default action difficulty setting, Way of the Sword is not particularly punishing, at least not in this 30-minute demo, which admittedly does feel plucked from a very early stage in the story.
I'm very happy they mentioned that it's not Souls-like, not just with the difficulty. We're going to get a little bit more into that, but I'll let this guy finish.
It certainly requires skill to get the most out of its enjoyably flashy combat, but generous parry windows, a block that protects from all angles, and cushioned enemy attacks mean Onimusha seems on track to be one for all action fans, not just the FromSoft fanatics. And while I would have liked to have faced a steeper challenge in this demo, the foes I faced, especially the end of level boss, felt well judged.
That is good. Okay, so when this game was initially revealed, we didn't see a ton of like actual gameplay like we're seeing now with UI and items and whatnot. It was all just select pieces from a build of the game that they had. So a lot of us were wondering, what is this game gonna feel like? Is it gonna play like a Souls-like? Because it kind of looked like it was edging towards Souls-like. But thankfully, as more hands-on previews have come out, there have been tons of people saying like, no, this is very much not a Souls-like, which is great. And about a month or so ago, I covered an article with the developers of this game where they were straight up asked, like, hey, there's a lot of Souls-likes out there. Is your game gonna be a Souls-like? And they straight up said no. They didn't pay any attention to any Souls-like game when they were developing Way of the Sword, which was music to my ears. And before I upset the Souls fans, I will urge you to listen to me. I used to really, really love Souls games. I played a ton of them. I thought they were incredible. I loved the combat, I love the difficulty, but I got so burned out on the actual gameplay, the combat. I still love exploration in Souls games. No one really does exploration like FromSoft. It's so well done. But when it came to that combat, having the stamina bar, having like the camera behind your character and you're just kind of going like this, and like it's kind of hard to describe a Souls game, but like you just know it when you see it and you play it. You usually also have like some sort of currency system where you build it up to upgrade your stuff, but when you die, you lose all of it, and then you got to go recover it. So I just got super burned out, and that was the one thing I was hoping was like, I really hope this game doesn't play like a Souls-like. And thankfully it doesn't. Everyone's saying this is very much its own thing, and having gone back and played a lot of the older Onimushas again recently with the remasters, I'm like, yeah, this just looks like a modern day version of what we got with Onimusha 1, Onimusha 2, and probably even Onimusha 3. So that was so incredibly exciting to hear. In regards to difficulty, I did hear from Daniel Bloodworth of Easy Allies that the demo he played, which is this one, did feel really easy, but he thinks that's probably because it's a public demo where they just want people to try stuff out. They're not going to crank up the difficulty until the actual game releases. This is also most likely an early on tutorial level, which would explain why it's not super difficult. But I imagine the full game will probably be a little bit harder. There might even be like a hard mode, who knows. So we got two-handed attacks too. This looks so cool.
I'm particularly impressed by how combat is built on a foundation of both health and stamina.
Yes.
Enemies are, of course, defeated by bottoming out their health bars, but each time you strike or deflect their attacks, you erode away their stamina bar. If that hits
cool.
0, the foe becomes exhausted.
That's also a sick pause by me. That's also really a great incentive to tell the player, hey, you're gonna want to parry. Because it's one thing to have a parry in a game where you block an attack and you do a really cool follow-up, but when your combat is directly linked to the parry system and that is directly affecting some aspect of the enemy, whether it's their stagger bar or a health bar, that's like Capcom game design right there. It's just everything's working in sync. Not the boy band.
Quite literally pausing to catch their breath. This is, of course, the perfect time to strike. A single button press triggers a break Eason move that violently dismembers your target.
Yes.
The animations are gloriously extravagant and can be chained together if a couple of enemies have been exhausted at the same time.
Okay, so that's cool too. Oh, there's chain Eason attacks. Okay, so that's a cool upgrade on the Eason ability, because before in older Onimushas, if you timed your attack just right, you got a critical strike called an Eason attack, which Seminosuke or Jubei would move out of the way and then swoosh, slice the enemy down. If you were really good, which I wasn't, and you timed it just right and there was multiple enemies, you would zip from enemy to enemy, cutting each one of them down. But it was just a single strike. This is actually a little different, because I know the regular Eason is in there where you sidestep and slash, but now there's chain attacks with actual like fatalities, if you want to call them, finishing moves essentially, that Musashi can do. Super sick!
For regular enemies, breaking their stamina spells instant death. And because parries quickly exhaust fodder, you're rewarded for honing that skill.
Nice.
You take less damage and get to witness cool kills. I'm deeply amused by how you can deflect arrows back at archers who then, winded by their own projectile, stand around simply awaiting their fate of single-click decapitation.
You can send the arrows back. Oh, that is great.
But things change when it comes to boss fights.
Yes.
The demo's final clash against the exuberant Sasaki Ganryu, a tall, gangly samurai powered up by his own gauntlet, is a much fiercer affair in which you'll deplete his stamina bar at least once before being able to deal the final blow. In this situation, an alternative version of Break Eason plots 2 marks on your target. Strike the red one, and you'll be rewarded with a burst of extra damage.
Damn!
Hit the purple to generate a bonus batch of souls.
Okay, that's pretty cool, and it fits people's playstyles. If you're just straight up really good at this game and you want to do max damage and you're not struggling, you're going to go for the red probably almost every time. But if you're going to take some hits, maybe you're struggling a bit, that's a cool way for the player to be like, okay, I think I'm going to go for the souls instead. Maybe it'll refill my magic, maybe I'll get a health boost. I like that. rivalries.
And that brings us back to souls. These flickering flames are color-coded. Red souls are used to purchase upgrades, while blue souls feed your Oni power gauge, which when full can be used to unleash special attacks. Yellow souls, meanwhile, are rarer and
like
replenish your health. All three are vital, not just for their individual properties, but for how they form a cycle.
What could be more fun than with death?
For instance,
so cool.
in the demo, Musashi was equipped with the two Celestials, a twin dagger special weapon that reaps yellow souls from fallen enemies. It can only be used when the Oni power gauge is topped off. As it's a powerful attack that requires resources, it's sensible to use it against tougher opponents who, naturally, deal more damage. Killing such foes with the two Celestials basically refunds damage that you take thanks to the yellow souls the attack creates.
Nice.
And so there's the cycle. You kill foes to gain blue souls, which powers up the ability to use special attacks, which cause your enemy to drop yellow souls, which instantly heal you from the wounds sustained during that fight. It perhaps doesn't feel quite that elegant in game, but there's a clear system upon which battle thrives. There are other examples of that too. Successful parries generously build a diamond-shaped meter that eventually causes your blade to temporarily erupt with damage-buffing blue sparks.
We saw that in the reveal trailer, I believe. In a cutscene, Musashi blocks from behind him, and you can see the blade in the cutscene light up red and then turn blue, and I'm like, that's gotta be some sort of cool mechanic. Turns out it is. It's a parry mechanic, which is sick. But also, just to run back a little bit, the change to the magic. In the original Onimushas, you had select weapons that you could use, all had different elements. You could just pull out the Thunder Sword or fire, wind, what have you, and then you can unleash magic attacks. It was cool. You got a variety of weapons to use. In this one, Musashi only has his katana as his main weapon. But like they said, when you build up that magic bar, you can pull out one of the special weapons, do a cool attack, and then it goes away, and then you've refilled your health. So that's an interesting change. It's probably for the best, so that way you don't bog down Musashi or the player with too many options. But just having like hey, I have the super cool magic attack I can bust out when I need it, I think is, an interesting change. It'll be one of those things you just kind of have to play to kind of gauge how I feel about it, but I'm not too upset about losing all of the other weapons, especially since it looks like Musashi's going to get a ton of these.
Hitting that mark feels fantastic. The animation alone makes it feel as if the battle has been hit by a shot of adrenaline. But if you can continue a successful chain of deflects, you can sustain that buff seemingly indefinitely. It's another smart system that rewards consistent skill with your blade. It's only when I came to write this preview that I realised that Onimusha is very much a game about managing gauges and meters. You need to deplete health bars and stamina meters, build power gauges, and keep other buff providing vessels topped up. On paper, that may sound dull and overly mathematical for a game about supernatural samurai fighting through demon-infested feudal Japan, but in practice, it works well. That's entirely down to the fact that the implement for juggling those meters, your sword, feels fantastic to wield.
That's good. Combat like this, again, like it needs to feel good. It needs to feel responsive. I look at Ghost of Tsushima. Super simple combat system, fancy Simon says, but the swordplay in that game felt so good. I never got tired of it. It was so satisfying to use. And that's one of the things I love about more like character action-y type games over a Souls-like, is that you can do way cooler stuff in a character action game. Devil May Cry, for example, you're doing cool stuff. And in Souls games, you can do like fun stuff, but it seems very basic, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not suited for those types of games, but doing like the same attack a few times and then like dodge rolling or blocking and the same thing. I like this. I like the Capcom style of action games, so this is wonderful to hear. Oh, the animations look so good.
The parry window may be wide, but the ringing clang of a deflect is supremely satisfying, especially because the subsequent counterattack animation is so extravagantly slick. Slicing through the amusingly gross regular Genma enemies, which range from mutant swordsmen to what I can only describe as demonic floating Furby heads, feels great, but it's the boss fight that really sold me on Onimusha's swordplay credentials. There's almost certainly a secret science to nailing the feel of when steel lands on steel, and Capcom has absolutely cracked that. There's an energetic flow each time the warriors' blades meet and push each other away. And while the duel against Ganryu doesn't feel destined to go down as an all-timer, it is ultimately too easy to enter those halls. I think it acts as a decent enough promise that, further into the campaign, there will be something that stands up to the very best of Ghost of Tsushima. The Gamescom demo may have been short, little more than some winding paths and a boss fight in a temple, but it's more than enough to convince me that Onimusha Way of the Sword is built on rock-solid swordplay fundamentals. I'm genuinely excited to master them and take on its campaign's toughest challenges. But it's also made me curious about several other things. As a tutorial-styled section, the demo had no real exploration opportunities, so it's currently unclear what kind of scope the environments will work with. Then there's the story, which caught me off guard with its humour. There's hints of an amusingly rocky relationship between Musashi and the voice inside his Oni gauntlet.
To purify this temple, you're going to find the source of this mission.
Right, Gauntlet Lady. Enough of that. If you're awake, I've got questions.
I refuse.
Damn.
You listen here.
I won't answer. Questions or otherwise. To Gauntlet Lady.
And the
I like that. So the older Onimushas were very earnest. You could describe them as being kind of cheesy, kind of hokey. It very much wore its heart on its sleeve. I appreciate the older Onimushas. It's really about like heroic samurais doing the right thing or like sacrificing themselves to defeat like Nobunaga or whatnot. They were sometimes unintentionally funny, which, you know, the older era of Capcom games like Resident Evil were kind of like that. But I liked how they're doing this. It's cool when you have like a straight man and the comedic relief and they can kind of bounce off of each other, sometimes switch roles even. So Musashi's a dude with attitude. Seeing the previous trailers, he sometimes maybe gets in over his head. He's an incredible fighter, but I think he's going to have a little bit of that comic relief still, make him feel a little bit more dimensional maybe than like a Seminosuke or a Jubei, as much as I like those guys. This will be something nice and different. As for Gon Ryu in that battle maybe not being super impressive, I view him as like a pursuer type enemy where he's not going to like hunt you down, but you're going to have multiple battles with this guy. Let's be honest. It's going to happen. We're going to fight him maybe 3 times, 4 times. He's going to come back, and I think they're going to escalate each one of those fights. Escalation.
boss battle banter was just on the right side of goofy. I'm fascinated to see where Capcom has drawn the line between a dark samurai tale and sparky anime humour. But even if that line ultimately ends up drawing an uneven balance, I'm confident Onimusha's razor-sharp combat will more than make up for a few bad jokes. For more from Capcom, check out our Gamescom 2025 previews of Resident Evil Requiem and Pragmata. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
That was a good preview. This game's looking sick. I can't wait. Finally getting to see proper gameplay with the UI, seeing it in action. It looks like it's going to be a ton of fun. It looks like what I want a modern day Onimusha to be. It's not Souls-like. It's very much what Capcom does best, taking the old Onimusha, really polishing it, refining it, and finding a way to make it work in, modern day settings, which I think is great. It looks sick. Okay, so when I clicked on this, it scared me. That's a close-up. That's nasty. Let's just get into it. Oh, gross. I am convinced that is Lisa Trevor. I know we're going to get some other shots of her probably in this gameplay. Those chains sound just like Lisa Trevor's chains, automobiles. That's got to be Lisa Trevor.
Since 2017's Resident Evil 7, a regular staple of Capcom's horror series has been the inclusion of an enemy that stalks you. Jack Baker burst through a wall and into our hearts. The world fell in love with Mr. X. And Lady Dimitrescu,
oh my god, Lady D.
her own kind of online adoration.
Suck my blood, please.
Resident Evil Requiem appears to be keeping up this tradition, with its own take on the hulking, relentless pursuer. And so far, from my small 20-minute sample at Gamescom 2025...
Oh my god, that is Lisa freaking Trevor, dude. Like, come on. I remember Lisa wearing a very similar nightgown. The fact that the material has held up all those years, if this is her, impressive. Who made the clothing? That's gotta be her. We didn't see her die in Remake. She jumped in a hole after her mom. She's this unkillable machine. There's no way that fall killed her. And then the mansion blows up. The laboratory blows up. We don't know how far down into the ground, into the earth that she went. The nuke goes off, takes out Raccoon City. Maybe she emerged after that. And the radiation from that nuke has affected her. She's now gotten bigger. She's mutated into this even fiercer, disgusting monster. I feel bad saying disgusting because her backstory is super tragic. what happened to her and her mom is unfortunate, but it just kind of shows you the horrors of Umbrella and what they're able to do and what they have no problems doing. This has got to be Lisa Trevor though, my dude. Like, she's back. She wandered out into the city and found this hospital setting, whatever it is. It's got to be her.
It feels like Capcom has created a new, lumbering foe that more than lives up to the mantle of a Resident Evil stalker.
She just straight eats your head.
The short demo takes place at the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Centre and stars our latest protagonist, Grace Ashcroft, who creeps through the dimly lit and suitably spooky setting, armed only with a lighter and glass bottles. While I expect that combat will be a part of the full game, there were no firearms to be seen in this demo, so there's an inherent emphasis on caution while creeping around the clinic's handful of rooms and single long connecting hallway.
Yep.
And if you think that sounds like an incredibly small location to explore, well, you're right. My sample of Requiem lacked any real kind of exploration and was largely a task of collecting item A to open item B, which allowed you to get item C and so forth.
Standard Resident Evil stuff. That's a good looking screwdriver though.
All sounds simple enough, right? Well, in classic survival horror fashion, your uneasy confidence is quickly jump scared out of existence upon the arrival of the as yet unnamed stalker enemy. After Grace discovers a lifeless zombie, or infected in her words, a hulking claw lurches into frame to manhandle the corpse. The camera lifts just as the creature plunges its teeth into the zombie's skull, both demonstrating the beast's sheer mass and how it has little consideration for the iconic fodder of the series.
Yeah, it's
this
terrifying.
new stalker is Lady D tall, with the frame of Resident Evil's Lisa Trevor and the vice-like jaw of a Wendigo. She has bulbous eyes, claws for hands, and a Quasimodo-like posture. Once unleashed, this stalker, like its recent relatives, is persistent, promptly reacting to the sounds, sights, and smells of Grace. And like her xenomorph stalker cousin from Alien Isolation, this monstrosity can, and will, travel above you through the ceiling space, dropping down as quickly as it can scarper up. Basically, she's relentless and can easily outmaneuver you.
She almost looks like one of those creepypasta monsters.
Fortunately,
but like genuinely scary. Yeah, like, you know those pictures you sometimes see online of like some weird creature hiding behind a door and it's like peeking around the corner and it's just like making weird faces. This is that, but actually scary. That's disgusting.
Fortunately, there are a few tools in Grace's arsenal that can help you survive though. The first being the aforementioned glass bottle. As you might expect, they're primarily used as a distraction tool, drawing the stalker's attention to the other end of the hallway and buying you time to slip past. It can also, in theory, be used as a weapon, although I'm not sure I'd recommend it. As with most stalking enemies, you can't kill or even damage Grace's pursuer. Perhaps Grace's most valuable weapon though, as you might have gathered by now, is sneaking. While crouching, you are afforded some moments of mercy as you take advantage of whatever small pockets of space you can find, be that under tables or behind corners. It's a useful skill, particularly in the nurse's station room, when drawing the attention of the beast is inevitable due to a scripted sequence.
Oh, great.
It does, however, only buy you a moment to slip by, and even when you reach a safer spot, flicking open your lighter to illuminate the darkness will draw the stalker's attention back to you. Creep as much as you wish, but your pursuer is always hot on your heels, no matter how carefully you tread.
Is it down the... Oh god, what was down the hall?
Interestingly, this new enemy type does have an Achilles heel though. Light, or more specifically, the bright white light of a room's ceiling lamp. The tiny flame from the lighter in Grace's hand didn't appear to make any difference. When chasing Grace into a well-lit room, the monster's skin visibly burns, causing her to scream and then retreat. Not only does this put some of the power back into your hands, but it's also a nice interpretation of the rules of Resident Evil's safe rooms. If you've ever seen Mr. X's bizarre
I was just about to bring that up. Oh my god, this footage is so bright.
This change is a welcome one, adding some well-overdue logic to the classic gameplay trope that magically blocks a stalker from entering your safe haven.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a cool in-world way to keep I keep wanting to call her Lisa Trevor, this monster, out of the room. Like, it physically gets burned by the light. That's cool, because in these situations, you're running from Mr. X, and he's just like, you're lucky you went into that room. I'm going to wait out here for you. Although I think in Resident Evil 3, there were moments where Nemesis just straight up ignored that rule, and he would follow you into, like, an area that seemed like a safe area, and he would just straight up attack you. So either way, it's smart of them to think of this stuff.
While there was neither much space nor opportunity to explore, thanks to the small environment and constant presence of a terrifying stalker, what little exploring I did do felt, perhaps to no surprise, very familiar. Like Resident Evil 7, Village, and the series in general, you're managing inventory slots, examining items, finding strange keys to unlock strange doors, and fitting fuses into circuit breakers. It's all very traditional, and fans of the series will feel completely at home. The first-person perspective of the more recent mainline games also remains, and at the suggestion of both the developer and myself, it's the optimal way to play a horror sequence like this one.
Yeah,
However,
that makes sense.
Following in line with the upgrade
That looks
Capcom
really
provided
good.
Resident Evil Village, you can also play Resident Evil Requiem from the classic third-person perspective. Your choice of camera can be changed on the fly in the menu anytime you wish, allowing you to freely switch and create a different kind of atmosphere. It's an interesting choice for a non-remake Resident Evil game.
Look at her hair.
And certainly doesn't feel like an afterthought, even though it may cynically appear to be at first.
Yeah, to me, this is proper third-person perspective, which is nice, because I know in RE Village, post-launch, they added a third-person perspective for Ethan, but it didn't feel quite right. It was very clear that game was designed around first-person perspective, first-person gameplay, so it felt kind of wonky. They did do the DLC a little bit later with Rose, which I think was more of a proper third-person type of experience, but knowing that they fine-tuned the gameplay to fit first-person or third for a character like Grace is great. Obviously, with these types of sections, first person just makes the most sense. It's scary, it's freaky, but seeing her in third person, like her hair, dude, the lighter lighting up her hair looks super sick. The lighting in general in this game is really, really good. But I imagine if there happens to be another playable character who is really good at combat, makes bingo jokes, is very skilled with guns and knives, that would probably warrant changing to third person. You catch my drift.
In a way that perhaps only a AAA budget game can, both viewpoints are extremely well designed, with moments tailored for each experience to maximize the player's fear. In first person, the stalker looms larger and feels significantly more imposing, with the restricted field of vision allowing for scripted scares to have more impact. During the demo, you're forced to make some noise by moving a cart across the room to create a step to reach your next item of importance. With the more focused first-person viewpoint, mid-action you're treated to a giant, claw-shaped signifier of the beast's impending arrival scraping past the window. It's a panic-inducing moment, and one that loses its power when your hyper-specific point of view is opened up wide by a third-person camera.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, all the Grace stuff I think is going to be best in first person. It fits her character. She gets scared very easily. She's timid. She's not completely helpless. I mean, she works for the FBI, so she's probably got some sort of training when it comes to like combat and guns. But I think this also might be a character like other Resident Evil characters, Grace, where she evolves throughout the game, and she might, who knows, by the end of the game, she might like break free of that trauma that she's been through, some of the timidness, some of the fear, and maybe become a little bit more, not a full-fledged action hero, but she's going to become more capable. I think that could happen towards the end.
That Capcom is aware of this and has made effort to maintain its scares despite your viewing preference. And in that short gameplay
oh god, that was so messed up. That's the creepypasta stuff I'm talking about.
Maintain its scares despite your viewing preference. And in that
imagine lying in bed at night. It's dark, and you look at your doorway, and that's what you see. That's spooky, dude.
Short gameplay slice, that ethos was perfectly
chills.
demonstrated. In first person, just after the stalker's introduction, you simply turn around to smoothly run down a hallway as fast as you can, leaving the stalker in your wake. And it's only the sounds of her shambling that follow that remind you that you're actually in danger.
Oh god, the feet. She's quick.
In third person, however, perspective-specific animations have Grace stumble and fall, building up the tension to make up for the reduced level of threat produced by the wider, vision-granting perspective. It's a lovely touch, and something I'm hoping to see a ton more of in the full game, hopefully providing ample amounts of horror despite your perspective preference.
That's sick. Okay, so Grace's stuff obviously was made with the intention of being played in first person, because that's spooky. But if you switch to third, they've made changes to Grace's animations and movements to make it a little scarier. Because your perspective naturally when you're in third person is not as scary, but to have Grace like stumble and fall, that's kind of cool. I don't know if it's going to get annoying with gameplay, if it's going to cause, you know, accidental deaths, but like that's pretty sick that they would even think of that.
My short playtime was such a small sample size of Resident Evil Requiem that it's very hard at this early stage to know whether ninth entry in the mainline series will fit in comparison to its predecessors. And that's assuming that this scenario in the demo will even feature in the full game at all. There's a distinct possibility of this just being a bespoke demo, something that Capcom has prior experience in with Resident Evil 7's beginning hour. But even if this is just a tonal example, it's very hard to not be excited for what horrors Resident Evil Requiem has in store for us when this unstoppable beast arrives in 2026.
It's like a xenomorph trying to get at your face.
And if you like that video and you want to learn more about Resident Evil Requiem, why not check out the entire history of Raccoon City?
Bombed out Raccoon City. So to what they just said at the end, I do think this will be in the game. Capcom has been very meticulous about how they've introduced this game to people, how they've introduced a character like Grace, what the story might end up being. So this, I think, will very much end up being in the game. This isn't like a beginning hour scenario. Capcom is very much the drip feeding story stuff and trailers with this game. The previous trailer we just got at Gamescom was super good, but it was like, I need more. There was not a ton there, but this is shaping up to be super cool, dude. And it's scary. Like I like having a Resident Evil that's scary, but I also do think, again, you know, if a character like a Leon ends up being in here, that they will have scenarios that are just naturally much more focused on the action aspect, because it's a character like Leon. We've talked about this in previous videos, but taking a Leon or a Chris or a Jill or a Claire and putting them in scenarios where they're gonna be scared just ain't gonna happen. Leon's a dude who took on a hallway of zombies with Chris. They were straight up doing MMA moves and John Wick gun fu on zombies. Nothing scares them anymore. So to have a character like Grace be like more of the horror section and maybe a Leon be more of the action-y kind of stuff, but having it blended really well, I think is key. Because you don't want an RE6 scenario where you have all these different campaigns trying to please different players and none of it really kind of gels. So I think maybe they've hopefully struck a really good balance with this game and what they're going to do with Grace and potentially a Leon S. Kennedy, again, should he be in the game. But this is looking scary. That's what I look like when I wake up in the morning. It's got to be a mutated Lisa Trevor. She's still got something on her wrist, might be like remnants of her chain. I'm telling you, the dress, the nightgown she's wearing, the humpback, she just doesn't have the face anymore. The mask she was wearing, which I think was her mom's mask, or her mom's face. And it's a cool wraparound to Resident Evil Remake. Again, if this is going to kind of cap off 30 years of Resident Evil lore and start up something new, like you'd want to have some sort of callback to the OG games. So I think it's Lisa Trevor, man. It just seems like it's her. It fits so well. So now that we've been successfully spooked, let's have a palate cleanser with Naoki Hamaguchi. This is an Experience Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on Xbox titled video. It's a very long title. But I'm very, very, very curious to see, can you speak, what he's going to say in this video. I'm also curious to see how it's going to look on Xbox. Oh, konnichiwa, Hamaguchi-san. There's a lot of green in this video. They even gave him an Xbox branded hoodie. They got to treat Square Enix nice. They're like, it's nice to have you guys back. Here's a free hoodie. Here's this on us. Oh god, there's no subtitles. Did they have subtitles on this video? Aha! Since I don't speak Japanese. There we go. That's better.
スクエアエニックスの浜口です。私がシリーズディレクターを務めるファイナルファンタジー7リメイクがいよいよ Xbox プラットフォームに登場します。一作目となるファイナルファンタジー7リメイクインターグレードでは主人公のクラウドとその仲間たちが世界を支配する
This is all at 30 frames, so it looks good though. Like, I mean, Xbox is a powerful system.
ミッドガルを舞台に繰り広げられる星を巡る壮大な物語をぜひその手で体験してみてください。さらに本作には忍びの少女ユフィを主人公とする番外編も収録されているので合わせて楽しんでいただけます。
Again, congrats to Susie Young. She's the lead voice actor in Silent Hill F. That is sick. She's doing some great work outside of Final Fantasy. She's incredible in Remake as Yuffie and Rebirth, but it's cool to see her getting a ton of other roles. She's a genuinely talented actor, so it's nice to see that.
本作は
Everyone in that cast is phenomenal, mind you, but like she seems to be becoming more prominent in video game voice acting.
Xbox Play Anywhere に対応していますので、Xbox シリーズ X&S、Xbox on PC、さらに
Microsoft, your next console generation, you gotta think of better names. It's such a mouthful to say Series X, Series S, and then there are the people who are like, well, what's the difference? And then you gotta explain. One's stronger than the other, more powerful than the other. The one uses discs, they gotta rethink this stuff.
Xbox
The ROG Ally. That thing is probably going to be very expensive.
いつでもどこでもあなたのスタイルでファイナルファンタジー7の世界へ飛び込んでください。Xbox 版のファイナルファンタジー
Winter, so still no firm date.
インターグレードはこの冬に発売予定です。ウィッシュリストに登録してファイナルファンタジー7リメイクシリーズの新情報をお待ちください。それではダンケシェーン。
We're like a multilingual king. So that was short and sweet. No release date still. Just this winter. So that could be this year, it could be early next year. If I had to guess, well, maybe early next year. And then later next year, maybe Rebirth heads to Xbox and Switch. But this is essentially just like... this is just cool because like Final Fantasy is finally back to being multi-platform, and there's been so much talk over the years of Final Fantasy sucking and not doing well, and why is it not selling a ton of copies, and tons of people will always blame like writing, or it's because the combat isn't turn-based. You ask me, I don't think it's those things, because the quality of those games is there. I look at Remake, I look at Rebirth, I have issues with 16, but that's a quality game. Like from a writing standpoint, from gameplay mechanics. I think the writing, honestly, in Final Fantasy VII Remake's trilogy has been some of the best writing Square's done in a very long time. Great characters, backed by wonderful performances. But if you ask me, the one thing that's been holding this franchise back for so long, and the reason why it isn't more successful, is because it hasn't been multi-platform. It's been locked to PlayStation for years now, and that's great in the short term, and I'm pretty sure Sony backing Square allowed them to even get some of these games made in the first place, but in the long term, you're not going to reach as many people as you could or should. And for a company like Square Enix, they need to be multi-platform. Their games need to be everywhere on day one to be as accessible as possible. And when you're only on PS5, there's only so much you can do with that base that's there. And I look at, Final Fantasy 16, which didn't meet Square's internal sales hopes, but it still sold 3 million copies in its first week. Selling 3 million units of a game when you're only on PS5, I think is still pretty impressive. 7 Remake is now past 7 million units, but that's because it was on PS4, PS5, PC, what have you. And we saw that Rebirth, when it came out on PC, it sold relatively well. Like, it surpassed any expectations that Square had for the game's performance on PC. So it's nice that it's on Xbox. I don't know if it being on Xbox is going to make a huge difference in terms of sales, because historically, JRPGs and Square's games in particular haven't always sold really well on Xbox, but it's nice that it's there. It's nice that it's an option. I think other than PlayStation, the big game changers, the most important consoles are gonna be PC and Nintendo Switch 2. If Final Fantasy can be on those platforms, that is gonna be the best for that series. You can't just stay on PlayStation, but Nintendo's going to have such a huge player base with the Switch 2. PC clearly has a hunger for these types of games. It's very, very important to be multi-platform. So I think once Square finally gets these, mainline Final Fantasies up and running on PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox on day one, I think that's when you'll see the series start to bounce back. I really don't think it's a quality issue. I don't think it's combat. I don't think it's writing. Again, all that stuff is there. It's very well done. It's just going to take time to get multi-platform up and running. Now, I look at a game like Final Fantasy 16. Personally, I really like that combat system. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I grew up playing character action games like Devil May Cry. So when I saw that the combat lead was someone who did the combat for DMC5, Ryota Suzuki, I believe is what his name is, I was like, okay, sick. I had a ton of fun with 16's combat. I do wish it was a little deeper. It would have been nice for Clive to have things like delay combos or pause combos. If he could do just a little bit more with the basic stuff, that'd be great. Would have been cool for Torgal as well to have maybe a skill tree to power him up more. Or maybe Torgal just gets stronger as Clive got stronger. Either way, I had issues with the story and the structure, but like the writing for the most part was pretty good. The combat I thought was incredibly fun, and again, reiterating, 7 Remake, 7 Rebirth. Rebirth's one of the best games I've ever played. I loved everything about the game. My favorite combat system in a video game is in Rebirth. The writing, the performances from the actors, the story, I love all of it. So the quality is there. I just think it's super important for this franchise to be multi-platform. I think that's the biggest thing holding Final Fantasy back, is that it hasn't been multi-platform since 15. So I think once you get that up and going, they'll be fine. And I do think they will sell well. I think 7 Remake and Rebirth in particular will sell better than 16 did. I think 16 is only available digitally on Xbox. It didn't get a physical release. I assume this will get a physical release, same with Rebirth. And it has the benefit of being an ongoing trilogy, so there's still time to jump into it, whereas with Final Fantasy 16, that came out, the people that wanted to play it probably already played it and maybe don't have an interest in it anymore, but this is still ongoing, so it's got the benefit of that. And I think, again, I'm pretty sure this will have a physical release as well. But with that being said, that is the video. Those were my reactions to Onimusha and Resident Evil in this Xbox video for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I am Curious Corduroy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about everything we checked out today in this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.